Welcome to Women Disrupting, the podcast that amplifies the voices of women who refuse to wait for change. I'm Yasmin Arif, your impatient host. Together, we'll confront injustice, share bold stories, and spark actionable solutions. Ready to disrupt the status quo? Let's ignite it right now. Welcoming Charlie Kram to the podcast. Charlie helps professional women step into their full potential and own it, authentically and in harmony with every part of themselves through virtual coaching. She's especially passionate about supporting working mums and mums-to-be, guiding them to create their best lives with the balance and wholeness they truly deserve. As Charlie puts it, to find and keep our balance, we need to get clear on what that really means for us, and then take the actions that allow us to become the best version of ourselves. In this episode, Charlie and I explore the power of frequency imprinting, a unique coaching approach that unlocks deeper access to the subconscious mind. She also shares how she uses the practice of quantum leaping to help women create lives beyond anything they thought possible. Enjoy. Welcome, Charlie, to Women Disrupting podcast. How are you today?
I am wonderful. Thank you for asking.
Amazing. So I've invited you on because you are a coach who I've had some coaching with, and I was really impressed with some of the work you did, more specifically because you are a frequency imprint coach. Is that the right term?
Yeah, frequency imprinting is one of the modalities. Yeah.
Yes. So let's kick off by just giving a bit of an explanation as to what that is.
Sure. So essentially, as I see it, it blends lots of different parts. So I am accredited, have my credentials with the ICF, but it's about, for me, going deeper, right? I very much see humans as whole people. And so it allows us to go into the energetics and the frequencies within us. And often, as I see it, just like in our minds, the patterns are created. Those patterns also come through our energy field, our body. And so it really speaks to the inner child and what has been created and placed into our subconscious that we might not be seeing, that is blocking us when we feel like we're doing all the work. We're really grafting sometimes and getting really frustrated that, hang on a minute, I am committed to making change, but I am not getting to the other side. What's going on?
Is that what you were spotting in the coaching before you started this? Almost like, my clients are getting frustrated, the results aren't coming up, and you were asking yourself, what's missing?
It's really interesting because when I look back, obviously most coaches are on their own growth journey, right? To me, that is a sign of a great coach, because we can't coach someone at a level we are not yet at, we haven't experienced, etc. So I think what I was experiencing was I knew for me there was so much more. And I'd done somatic work before, which I believe allowed me to be much more open and receptive to the work that I've done since. And so for me, that recognition of almost the spiritual, but certainly the unseen in the energy piece and how that impacts our identity, how we show up, who we believe we are, is absolutely something that I think has so much more transformational potency, if you will, than surface level coaching. And I'm not sure I ever really, when I look back, was a surface level coach once I came out of corporate, caveat. But for sure, I think there is a real depth, particularly with women, of acknowledging that part of them, bring it into the light and saying, this is a great part of you. How can you use it? How can you acknowledge it? And how can you then allow the parts that you've accepted as yourself that don't fit and aren't going to serve you forward from the point you are now? How can we integrate that through this work?
And what's interesting is you've just talked about the power of working with that part of the self, the subconscious mind. So if it is so transformational, going back to the corporate reference, what's stopping executive or corporate coaches from working with that part of the self in corporate cultures?
Oh, there absolutely isn't. And I think that is all I was referencing was when I was in corporate, I very much adopted coaching practices, right? I knew about coaching. I wasn't a qualified coach. It wasn't, but it was all, grow model. Great,
Yeah.
but so what? Like, give me some juice, give me some meat on the bones, people. Like, and I think the more I work, the more, and I do offer this stuff to corporates. And it is something, culture piece. Oh my goodness, this is transformational because you are going deep into the values of the individuals and finding the alignment with the company, with the business, with the growth of the individual and the company. And
Yeah.
so, absolutely, I am so with you. I think there is no reason it should not be part of it. Same with the somatic work, but there can still be resistance.
It's a really deep and personal experience having done it with you. So I wonder, having worked and currently working with internal organizational coaches, whether it would work, for example, if you had an internal coach who was your line manager, or even just someone who works in the same organization, whether I could do what I did with you as a coachee, as in like be so vulnerable and open up to someone that I work with. What are your thoughts on that?
Juicy question. I think my realization, the more I continue, the more I go, it is so much about relationship, right? And so that is, yes, with your coach, with your line manager, with the internal coach, whoever that is. And as to kind of what we referenced earlier, there will be a limit to what you can and are comfortable to access based on that relationship to a degree. Because, yeah, for sure, you're not going to be open and vulnerable in a situation to the degree that might be required to really shift you in some of those situations. However, there is a part of me that goes, do I wonder if into the future, more radical, inventive, innovative companies actually leverage this stuff and go, do you know what? There is space for all of you. Because that was one of my own experiences when I was working in those sort of companies, that actually I didn't feel I was able to be my full self, because we do have quirks and we are socialized beings, and it's complicated because it's never just you as an individual. It's you in a dynamic relationship, both with the individuals you work with, but the company as a whole, that culture piece, right?
Yeah. And it's incredibly vulnerable and perhaps not even accepted, or there's some shame around exposing the shadow part of ourselves to in a professional context, would you not say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I truly believe the work that we did, the actual modality of the frequency imprinting, I believe is most powerful when it's one-on-one in a safe space, because like it or not, most people have limited access to the full range capacity of their nervous system, right? And so there is often, even sometimes one-to-one, even any coaching, right? You come to a space and it can take time to be comfortable with the coach. And I think that in its own right can bring limitations. And so to create a space where you really can let go of that stuff and just be curious for yourself as coachee is just the electric bit for me, right? Because if we can't be open and honest with ourselves, then we are not going to have the transformation that maybe we're looking for.
Yeah, for sure. And we've built it up quite a bit now. So I wonder whether we can just give a little bit of an elaboration around what frequency imprinting looks like in a session, so that a coach would understand, but our listeners who aren't coaches, who don't understand what it's, the sort of, the practice of coaching, if they could understand it as well.
Yeah, for sure. So the modality itself is structured. And there is, as with a lot of coaching, we start with, intentions, goals, let's have a look. And I obviously think it's really important for me as coach at the beginning to explore, okay, where are you now? What is getting in the way that you can see? And then where are we aiming? Let's co-create that intention together. And then we go into more of and it is, generally speaking, we go down into a meditative state. It's speaking with the subconscious, accessing that, relating to your inner child. Okay, what is it that you need? What are those wounds, if you will, that shadow side that is coming up, that is impacting your day-to-day, how you are relating to yourself, but also then how you're showing up in the world that is stopping you from achieving X, Y, Z, the sense of being you want, the accolade you want, the job you want, whatever that is. We then go into, as you might remember, an element of like quantum leaping, where it's really about opening up, expanding without those limiting beliefs that were present and causing issue, to really expand into, well, hang on a minute, what is possible? And then from there, we create more of an action plan, much more, okay, so what are the tangible things that need to shift to get us there? And obviously, there's different ways we can work. As I touched on when we spoke briefly, this is one thread of the piece for me. It isn't the only work, but I think it can be really transformative in terms of allowing people just to acknowledge actually some of the stuff that is in their system. Because as I said before, those patterns are in our mind, our body, our energy field, and they do impact how we show up.
As you're talking there, it sounds on the surface like coaching, in the respect that in coaching, you know, in generic practice, you'll learn to identify limiting beliefs with your coachee and overcome them. And then it's future focused. So what do you want your future to look like? The difference with what you did with me that I haven't experienced before is you brought me into a meditative state, and I had to shut my eyes and go deep. So talk to me about the impact of doing that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I will be fully transparent always. I was quite reserved about it at first. I had real reservations that, hang on a minute, this feels like an overstepping of a line potentially, right? In terms of, well, is this really coaching anymore? But then I do some associate work, and the programs that I work with there similarly have a framework. It's much more pure coaching, but there is structure to it. And so it makes me, obviously we grow, as I've already said, and that reflective piece of me goes, well, absolutely. I believe coaching is about allowing humans the access to the best of who they are, the best of who they can be. And speaking from personal experience, I know that I got to a certain point and absolutely from the outside was like, wow, you're really successful. You've got a great job that you're really good at, facing promotions, you're well paid, you've got this, you've got that. And I'm like, so what? Do you know what? My heart is not singing. It's not good enough for me. And maybe some people go, oh, what a load of nonsense. I don't care. The more I step into it, the more I go, this experience of life for me is about relationship, about connection, and about feeling. It's about how we experience. And so I guess coming back to your point, when I consider that we are the lens through which we experience our life, there is no reality, right? It's we create that reality by all of our stuff. And this for me allows another way to access some of the hidden stuff that is getting in people's way. Because we are socialized creatures. I've got young daughters. Oh my goodness, there was just a situation the other day, and the treatment between a boy and a girl, it shocked me. And it is no wonder that the gender stereotypes are still alive and kicking, because it starts early. And I guess the reason I raise that is that for me as a female, I'd got to this point of success, but it was only when I started doing the deeper work, the somatics, the reflection, actually recognizing some of my past experiences, that you go, oh, hang on a minute, that was a safety mechanism. That was a protective thing. That was so that I could fit in. What? I want to belong. I don't want to fit in. I'm okay with my weirdnesses and my quirks, and I'm very comfortable with my shadows. Not everyone is, but I do believe that that piece has a place in coaching, because how can it not?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's the subconscious mind for me. It's like it's unseen. It feels dark and deep. And when your eyes are open and your sensory perceptions are all stimulated, you can't fully access the subconscious. But when you shut down, it becomes more accessible. Would you say that's familiar?
Yeah, absolutely.
There?
Yeah, and I think similar with spiritual work, somatic work, it's about releasing that expectation. And even our vision gives, we see what's in front of us. So absolutely switching off that, I mean, very socially normal. Obviously, not everyone has sight, but when you close that down, it is a stimulus of going inward. It allows you that space and capacity not to put everything out. And it's similar with your energy because it has the same impact with your energy by shutting down, by creating that safe space, that cocoon almost. And there's work that I do somatically where you're, in a little cocoon of cushions. It's creating safety, security so that you can relax your parasympathetic nervous system. We're good. Okay. What can I see?
Yeah.
Inside, feel, experience, right?
Yeah. We're disrupting in a sense, aren't we? The subconscious mind, that's the parts of it certainly that are stopping us from achieving our goals. And we've already talked about perhaps gender stereotypes being some of those limiting beliefs that we've absorbed that are stopping women especially. And I know you work a lot with women, so obviously I'm mindful not to generalize, but in the same breath, there will be patterns that you see. So I wonder whether you'd be open to sharing if there are any common themes that you see in your female clients that are coming up in the subconscious mind. And I'm happy to sort of share what came up for me when I work with you, if I can relate to what you share.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a huge one, which is often written about, is not being good enough, right? And that can come from lots of different places. That sense of comparison, of imposter syndrome, but also, I believe, a lack of alignment, because so often the word that came to mind is forced, but that's a perception, right? But ultimately, there can be a very real, I know I felt it, this is what you're meant to do. And so you follow that socially normal path and then go, oh, hang on a minute. This is feeling like I've ticked off so many of the things that are great to have, but I don't feel it. And so I guess linked to that is imposter syndrome and a sense of just, not worthiness, I would say, is probably the biggest thing, which links with not deserving of love often. And that can be a sense of potentially bad experiences with parents, where when we step back and contextualize, that parent had a lot going on, but our 5-year-old self did not know that, had no ability to contextualize in that way, and reframing that to go, oh, okay, yes, I can bring empathy to the other person, but also bring empathy and compassion to myself, which allows a degree of healing.
And with that, what stood out to me when you were talking there, that sense of misalignment, which I feel resonates with me, comes also the challenge of, okay, I'm misaligned, but then what does the future look like? Because I haven't got enough role models, or the world doesn't look like perhaps I want it to. So I can't, it's hard sometimes for me to kind of visualize quantum leap, you might say, if I haven't got you can't be what points of reference. That's what I'm looking for.
You are absolutely not alone in that. And probably my practice in that modality has developed since even we worked together, right? And actually, I think one of the things that I found really powerful, whether this is women or not, because I haven't found it in the same way than with the few men I have worked with. However, that doesn't mean it's not possible. We're all unique individuals. But bringing it back, rather than the visualization, it's much more about the feeling, the experience of whatever is in the future. And I think the reason that can be much more powerful is because it then links to emotion, which we know is a really solid, strong human driver. And I believe when we bring it back into the emotional space, it can drive us further forward faster by tying it all together.
So I think I had this conversation with you. This is really interesting. So because people say different things, you feel like the feeling can come before the thought or the visualization.
Well, yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? My jury's out, I think. And also, we each experience differently. I don't think there is enough research about how our brains work. We are so complex, right? How can we truly know? And we also know that science is fallible. Like, just because it's fact today doesn't mean in 5 years' time, it's still going to be fact. And so when people talk about, well, where's the research? Where's the science? I'm always a bit more squishy because I go, well, yes, I love science. Don't get me wrong. I love things that are backed by research. Even research, though, is not one and the same, right? One piece of research might be much more rigorous, stronger than another. I digress. I think it's about that feeling of being able to connect with something to whatever degree you have experienced, those reference points you talked about, right? And I believe that humanness is critically linked with the emotion. And again, not everyone, I've got a client at the moment and she's like, yeah, this is good for me. And I'm like, okay, you don't seem that pumped. But the reality is that's cool, right? As long as it's right for that person and it creates that sense of pull for them, game on.
Well, I'm really glad you mentioned that point, because as you were speaking just before that, I was thinking how my thinking's evolved around this, because I would have previously tried to access, if I wanted a future, times when I was really happy and excited and, all the kind of, if you've got a continuum of happiness to sadness, like I would be more on the hyped end of happiness, trying to like channel those. But my thinking's evolved a little bit now in a more spiritual sense, actually, in the respect that I believe, and this is my personal opinion, happiness is equal to sadness in many respects, because each of them can be taken away, or you can access them equally. And actually, my feeling that I want to access now is peace.
I love that, because I totally relate, unsurprisingly, because actually, and I think, again, I have spent many hours pondering over this. And I think there is a social driver that happiness is the elite. It's where you should be. No, like, I just want calm often, right? Yes. In fact, I think the biggest thing for me is peace with the capacity to have it all, right? The light and shade, the sadness and the happiness, because we know the reality of our word, as evidenced by nature and all the other lovely things that we've got around us, that actually those dark moments, the fallow seasons, are equally necessary and joyful in their own way, in my opinion.
Yeah. And we often say this too shall pass to the sad times, because we want them to go away, but we should be saying that to the happy times maybe as well. Like, this too shall pass. I'm not going to be in this state of happiness forever, but I'll enjoy it while I can.
And actually saying that, again, it's that relationship piece. What's our relationship with sadness? What's our relationship with happiness? Why is one or the other so much more drawing to us than the other? I think it's just so fascinating.
It is. No, for sure. I wonder if someone hasn't had the opportunity to experience this kind of deep coaching before, whether they're a coach or not, or whether they've had coaching or not, is there any sort of self-coaching or self-reflective exercise you can recommend to our listeners that they could do just to sort of dabble into this?
I think it's one of those interesting things. I would generally, the core piece around that frequency imprinting with inner child work, I think is very sensitive, and people can get lost in it, because it can really, you can go to a place where there's huge emotion. And so, yes, absolutely. I think there is self-reflection, thinking about things that are coming up for you that are causing some discomfort or feel like they're getting in the way, and considering, oh, well, when have I experienced this? It might not be quite the same depth of experience, but that doesn't mean there isn't value to it, right? And I think actually, the big thing for me, it was once I'd stepped out and started my coaching business, that I suddenly realized I have tried to let parts of myself fall away at different phases and stages of my life. And so coming out of corporate, I was like, right, I'm setting up my business. I'm all about life coaching. I'm all about expansion. I'm all about honoring your whole self, boo to the system. And then there was a point where I was like, hang on a minute. I have got a huge amount of experience in strategy, in, corporate culture. Why am I not referencing any of this? Why am I not bringing all of who I am and really integrating it? Because to me, that is the truth of modeling what I want to give to the world, right? That actually I get to do this too. And I get to go, actually, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And
sure, but it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
And go, I'm not doing that anymore. The corporate world is horrible. Goodbye forever. Hang on a minute. Notice yourself. What do we want to do with this?
Yes, no, for sure. I used to, in fact, I think it was with your coaching, I stopped this polarized thinking of, well, I've only got two options. I either stay or I leave, or I do this or I do that. And I'm still a little bit like that, but it's so restricting, isn't it? That kind of polarized thinking that we fall into. Yeah.
It runs deep though, right? And this stuff isn't a quick fix more often than not.
Definitely not. But misalignment is rife, especially among women, because of the systems that we have to live in that were, and I'm not blaming men for setting them up, but set up by men initially, and we're having to adapt them as we've moved into the working world. So I imagine there's lots of people, lots of women listening to this who have that feeling of misalignment. So to wrap things up, in true non-coaching style, what's the best advice that you can give to those listeners who feel misaligned right now?
Do you know what? I think depending where you are on the journey, I think acknowledging that you matter almost has to happen before anything else can, right? Because when you allow yourself to do that and then take the action to create the space, the thing that I would most recommend and has been most transformative to me, alongside that ability to integrate what I've got through my own coaching, etc., is time by yourself, is solitude, to be able to reflect, not in judgment, but in curiosity and with an intention of, well, what is alignment for me? Because I think just like you said about coming from extreme happiness to peace, I think so often you reference with the quantum leaping feeling inaccessible at points, I think is what you were saying, that so often we've shut down knowing what we want. We have lost that connection. And that was for sure something I experienced at drama school, of going, oh my goodness, I don't know how to act on my natural instinct, my natural intention, because it's hidden. What do I do? So I think, acknowledging that you are important, and actually for things to change, something has to be different. And then taking that time to reflect, to be with yourself.
And that, I feel, is the best advice, but for some the hardest, because being on your own, for some people, I'm quite used to it actually. I perhaps love it a little bit too much. But I know some people who just can't even sit in a room without the TV being on because it's too uncomfortable, isn't it? But actually is it the wound is where the light enters?
Yeah. And actually it's so true. I mean, I've got young kids and it felt inaccessible. It was like, well, time, focus is huge, right? And it was COVID lockdown. I was like, do you know what? Something's got to give, mate. I'd put the kids to bed and I was like, I don't care. I'll just pretend I'm still putting them to bed and sneak off and have half an hour. And actually really acknowledging that time is also a perception, right? That creating that time is available when you put your focus where is actually going to serve you and what you desire. And maybe that desire is to find out what your heart desires, right?
Definitely. I love it. Thanks so much. So much food for thought there, Charlie. If our listeners want to find you, where would they look?
So they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm at Into Your Element, and also on Instagram, or they can reach out. So yeah.
That's amazing. I will put all of that in the show notes. Thanks so much, Charlie.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Women Disrupting. I'm Yasmin Arif, reminding you that change doesn't come to those who wait, but to those who act. If today's episode lit a fire in you, share your thoughts and the stories that moved you. Let's turn inspiration into momentum, because disruption doesn't end here. Join us next time as we continue to challenge, connect, and create a better world together.